The way I look at it is you're always constantly optimizing for two things. You're optimizing for revenue growth and controlling costs.
What's up, everybody? My name's Mike Sjogren, here with my co-host,
Emmanuel Pani.
We're part of a group of specialized real estate investors you've probably never heard of.
We didn't start with deep pockets or wealthy families, and we don't rely on 401ks, mutual funds, or traditional real estate investing.
In fact, many of us don't even own the properties that fund our freedom. If you ask the money experts out there, they'd say what we do is impossible, yet it's happening every single day.
It's happening through a new niche called short-term rentals.
We are Short-Term Rental Nation, and these are our secrets. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Short-Term Rental Secrets podcast. I am your host, Mike Sjogren, here with my main man and brother from another mother, Mr. Emmanuel Pani. What is going on, E?
My brother, I just came back from Mexico. I'm still in paradise, and it's so good. It's so good to travel again. Also, for somebody that talks about vacation rentals all the time, I kind of felt like a fraud because I hadn't gone anywhere in like 6 to 8 months. So it was good to just get out, travel, go to an airport. And life is kind of normal, man. Like whenever you are able to get out and go to the beach and you don't wear a mask, you don't think about it, and life just kind of feels normal, which kind of takes away the anxiety feeling of constantly having to wear a mask and be cautious and hand sanitizing and all of that good stuff, you know? Yeah. How are you guys?
We're good, man. We're good. Things are rocking. Thinking about going up to New Hampshire this weekend. Haven't really made a decision yet, but we'll figure that out. But things are going good. Hotel's doing really well. Just cracked one of our key revenue milestones. I won't say what the number is, but it's basically double what we were initially projecting with the hotel, which is huge. And awesome. We've already hit that 3 months in, which is awesome. So yeah. Super, super psyched for that. And as you know, and I've talked about quite a bit, having the right systems and tools in place to do that and be able to do that, especially at scale, is huge. And that's why I'm super psyched to introduce Alon here in a second. And so I will just basically go through, I'll read his bio, then I'll turn it over to him, and then we'll dig a little bit deeper on his background, getting into the short-term rental industry, what his role is, and we'll go from there. So today we have Alon Eitan on the show. He is the Director of Strategy and Business Development at short-term rental property management platform Guesty. In his role, Alon is responsible for designing Guesty's strategy and generating new business opportunities within the Guesty marketplace. Prior to this role, Alon was a Senior Business Analyst at Claltech, responsible for over $500 million in transaction value. And earlier in his career, he served as manager at PwC, strategy and leading cross-sector strategy consulting prospects with merger and acquisition advisory projects, which is kind of a trip down memory lane because I did the public accounting consultant thing for a while early in my career too. So without further ado, Alon, welcome to the show, man. Excited to have you.
Wow, it's great to be here. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mike E. Great to be here chatting with you today. Too bad you didn't take me to that weekend in Mexico, but yeah.
We'll get that on the books.
Next episode, we'll fly to Tel Aviv. That's been on my list. We'll do a live scoping.
Better than any Mexican beach you'll find, guaranteed.
Right, I hear that. It's the
guaranteed.
New York City, right over there. So I look forward to it.
Yeah. Well, bring me up when you're here. We'll take you out.
Perfect.
Love it. I love it. So Alon, you want to kind of take the listeners through a little bit more of your background, like what got you into this industry and what you're doing now with Guesty?
Yeah, sure. So you kind of went through the bio quickly, but I started off very differently than short-term rentals. I started off as an accountant way back, and I just decided that I knew I loved businesses, but I really didn't like accounting. So I wanted to do proper business. And that's how I ended up doing M&A consulting. So did that for like 7 years, 4 years. 4 years M&A consulting, and then 3 years doing private equity. And after doing quite a few deals, I wanted to do something more operational, build something big, be part of building something big. And that's how I ended up in Guesty. Guesty is very prominent in the Tel Aviv venture capital space. And I always admired what they're doing. And I was glad to get the opportunity to make the switch from venture capital, private equity to Guesty. And at Guesty, what I'm responsible for is basically designing the strategy and creating business opportunities through our marketplace and business development unit. And that's basically strengthening our ties with the industry and creating new channels for Guesty to establish itself.
I love that. And for folks that aren't familiar with Guesty, like the marketplace that we're talking about is the thing that I love about Guesty is it integrates with pretty much everything known to man. So like whatever system you want to use, from the locks I use to all sorts of different systems, pricing tools, all of that. So your role is going out and finding who are those other players that maybe you don't integrate with yet, getting them to integrate with the platform, and then some other business opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. So we at Guesty, we realized that our mission is to build a platform, and the way we see a platform is, so you get Guesty, but we also want to allow you to use the best in a breed for your other tools, like, right? So you mentioned pricing, but there's a lot more. So keyless entry, cleaning management, operation management, marketing, sales. So we want to allow our customers to do everything from within Guesty. And it means that we need to do what we do very good, but we also need to be very open to integrate with the best of breed in the market. So yeah, that's exactly what I do.
Yeah.
Love it.
So have you seen over the years, have you seen more and more people getting in the business? And do you feel that that's what has allowed you guys to grow so rapidly, or are you guys kind of like leading the way still? Like, do you see more people coming in now?
Yeah, so I think it's both, right? So if you look, like, even just 4 years ago, the industry in terms of listings unit, it doubled, and we're seeing that continue. Like, we're seeing growth in alternative accommodation, short-term rentals, whatever you want to call it. We see growth continuing, and honestly, I don't think it's going to stop. Maybe the growth rate will slow down, which makes sense in a maturing industry, but I think the real estate sector in the US, but also globally, is shifting towards build to rent. And with that model, it creates a lot of opportunity for short-term rental operators to establish themselves and grow their inventories. So I think that trend we're seeing, that inventory growth, will continue.
Absolutely. So, from your point of view, you're kind of putting all the pieces together behind the scenes of all the different integrations. One thing that I want to talk about for a lot of the folks that listen to this podcast is, as you're looking to scale, it becomes so crucial to find ways to integrate and systematize and automate your business. So from your standpoint, what are you seeing as some of those, like you mentioned, the keyless access, that's huge, right? But some of the other key components, as you elevate your business, what do you think are some of the major integrations that folks should look for as they're starting to scale their business?
Yeah. So I think the way I look at it is you're always constantly optimizing for two things. You're optimizing for revenue growth and controlling costs. So when you think about revenue growth, you want to think of ways to improve your rate strategy and to obviously increase your occupancy. So within Guesty, we've built a lot of tools around yield management and yield rules to really make sure your pricing, let me rephrase it, you're not leaving money on the table, right? So if you price below what the market is willing to pay, you're leaving money on the table. So we're really investing a lot in building features that will really keep this to a minimum. And then you have your dynamic pricing tools, which take a snapshot of the market in its current state and recommend what's the right price. So I think that's very powerful, right? Because then you're sure you're always pricing correctly. And I think before these advances were made, like, people were kind of pricing by feel, and if you're very experienced, that'll probably work, but for the most part, it won't. So you'll be losing money if you do that. So you really need to make sure you're using all pricing rules and dynamic pricing to make sure you're really pricing on the demand curve. So that's for pricing and occupancy as well. And then another thing that's very important, at least the way I see it, is to distribute to as many channels as possible. And what you need to be able to do that, if you would have done that manually, you'd end up with massive double bookings, because if you're distributing to 3 channels, it's really hard to maintain a clean calendar that way. So what we realized is that we need to build a unified calendar that's very super strong and connected to as many channels as possible. And so we have direct integrations with the leading channels. We also integrate with channel managers to allow users to connect to the long tail of channels. But that's very important. So you need to make sure that your software has strong direct integrations with channels, and then that's the revenue part. And then you have the operations part. So in operations, what you always want to be looking at, especially as you're scaling, is that you're keeping or optimizing the room to employee ratio, right? You want that ratio to be as much as possible. So you're managing as many rooms possible with the lowest amount of labor, right? And to do that, the key is automation. So automation is in every aspect of the business. We automate guest communication. So you get all your communications from guests into a single inbox, and you're able to automate replies to those communications. So on average, you could think a listing could get 50 inquiries per month. So if every replying to each one of those takes you 4 minutes, just imagine how much you could achieve with automating those communications. So that's something we really, really put a lot of effort into doing. Another thing we really put a lot of effort into is workflow automation. And in our marketplace, you could find a lot of good solutions for doing that. So that's automating your maintenance costs, automating your entrance to generating key codes to enter the house or apartment, automating cleaning, and those kinds of aspects of the business. And yeah, so you could find all of those in our marketplace as well.
I love, because this is literally, if you've been listening to our podcast, we're literally gone back, and this is literally all we've kind of talked about, right? The key to however you want to do it, right? That you're a single operator that just wants to do it to make a little bit more money on the side, or you do what Mike and I do, and you have a management company that grows and scales. Unless you can optimize your experience, your pricing, your automation, there is nothing else. What else are you supposed to do, right? And you said something that's super important, because I have done that in the past, is when you think you know a market, most of the time you're going to end up getting complacent and leaving money on the table. Because you can think that you know where the market is going, but things are shifting so rapidly now with the supply of units also, right? So when I started in my town, there was a lot less units. So if I don't account for the increase in inventory and then decrease my prices accordingly, I'm going to just be like, well, this used to rent for this much, it's not anymore. What happened, right? So having that dynamic pricing lets you really keep your hand on the market and really understand, okay, this is what's real. This is what the data is talking about, which is invaluable to making all the money, not leaving any money on the table.
Yeah, 100% right.
What do you think? I know that you talked about like yield management and pricing is a big focus for you guys right now. Are there any other things like looking out over the next 6-12 months that are a big focus for you guys that you're seeing a need in the market right now?
Yeah, so I think pricing is super important, and especially in these days. So, like usually pricing is based on historical prices. But in our days, it's kind of hard to use the historical prices as benchmarks. So you really have to be clever about pricing right now. And another thing that's very important is, and it is kind of a derivative of pricing, is length of stay pricing. So what we see now in the market is length of stays are getting longer. So used to like between 3 to 4 days. And now we're even seeing 7, sometimes even 14. Airbnb recently even opened a full section dedicated to extended stays. So when LOS or length of stay it gets wider, you need to really be smart about how you price. So because then a discount needs to be applied, but how do you even set that discount, right? So that's something sort of the derivative of pricing you need to pay attention to. Another thing that you need to look into is cleaning. So cleaning and content, or I call it touchless check-in, but it's the same thing, right? So with cleaning, you want to make sure that your cleaning is up to standard with the new requirements for COVID, and that your guests feel safe. And for the whole touchless part, so this was actually a trend that was bound to happen, right? So people want to be able to check in themselves. They don't want to go to meet somebody, exchange keys. It's a hassle. So that was going to happen anyway. I think COVID kind of expedited it. But what I would recommend is to make sure that whatever software you're running really supports that. So whether it's with an app, a check-in link, or something like that, just that guests will be able to check himself in, and you'll be, as a host, you comply with the necessary regulation, because there's an aspect of that.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. What else have you seen that you guys had thought that was going to start happening, but that due to COVID has been expedited? Like whatever the example you gave just now. Are you seeing other things that you thought were going to be 2-3 years away?
Yeah. So yeah, I think the biggest one that we saw is what we call at Guesty Flexible inventory. So as a theory, right, an apartment, a unit, it could be leased for long term. It could be leased for short term. It could be leased for midterm. But what we've seen, like traditionally, is that long term units are long term, midterm units are midterm, and short term units are short term. What we're seeing now is the lines have really blurred. So short term rentals operators who kind of saw a dip in demand for short stays put their units on midterm channels. And what we're seeing is a lot more flexibility in business models or length of stay models. So short-term rental operators are suddenly midterm rental operators, or some have even gone to long-term. So what this means is that whatever software they're running in the back should be flexible enough to support shifting from these different length of stays. And that's not trivial at all. Not a lot of, I think not any us know how to do that. So it's very, very important to check that out.
Yeah. And that's something that me and Mike have also kind of spoken about, right? It was the writing on the wall of actual operators that we've seen and interviewed that have been able to survive through this moment. It was that, right? How rapidly were they able to think on their feet and change from short-term to long-term to medium-term, and really like that is the only way you can survive. So it's very interesting that you guys are seeing that on your side as well.
Yeah, exactly. You just got to remember, in the end, what we're all optimizing for is revenue per occupied room, right? And that's made of two components: the per night revenue, so your average daily rate, if you'd like, and occupancy. So when you optimize for that, the length of stay, right? It's a result of that. So you could get higher occupancy for mid stays, but the ADR would be lower. But when you do the multiplication, it's the same thing, right? So you just really need to move fast between the models, react to the market. Exactly what you said. It's super key to this business.
Alon, could you repeat that formula real quick? Because it was interesting on the, I think you guys presented last week on the VR DARM conference. It was basically like a data analytics and pricing strategy conference over 3 days. And there were different guest speakers that had previously been in the hotel industry. And it was fascinating to see how new and immature the short-term rental industry is as far as really diving deep into data and analytics, where, you know, they're using RevPAR and all these other calculations that if you ask the average short-term rental host, they have zero clue what any of these mean. So the one that you just mentioned, could we elaborate on that again real quick?
Yeah, sure. So RevPAR is a term lent from the hotel industry, but on a basic level, what does that mean? It means how much does your unit generate on average per day, and it factors into it occupancy and rate. So what I was going at is, let's say you have short term, mid-term, and long term. Short term, you'd have lower average occupancy throughout the year, but you'll have a higher daily rate, right? Midterm, your occupancy will be higher, but your average daily rate will be lower. Because if I'm a guest and I'm going for a 30-day vacation, then I want to get a discount on my rate, right? And it makes sense. But in exchange, I guarantee the operator that he'll get full occupancy for that month. So it also works out for him. So you're always balancing between your daily rate and your occupancy. And what I'm saying is, sometimes, even though you'll be listing your property on a lower daily rate on the midterm channel, the uptick that you get in occupancy will cover for that. So you always need to remember, you're optimizing a simple formula: ADR, average daily rate, multiplied by occupancy, right? So you always need to think, where can I get the highest product of both of these?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess thinking about it in another way, if you took your monthly revenue, right, and divided it by the number of days, that's basically your average amount that you're generating per day. Your RevPAL, revenue per available listing, whatever acronym, right? Because is this all? Everybody's like, well, I want my occupancy to be this, or I want my average daily rate to be this. And at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't really care. What's your monthly revenue? And then figure out, benchmark that piece of it.
It's the product of both. You're not optimizing only for occupancy. You're not optimizing only for rate. You're optimizing for revenue. So that's exactly what you said.
And to me, what's amazing is that the more this business and this industry grows, the more it assimilates the characteristics of any large business, right? Because as we know, anybody that makes product, how many of them sell wholesale? Because all they want is revenue, and they don't care about making 10, 20% more by selling less units. They just want to see what is the most amount of units I can sell. So in this case, what is the most amount of nights I can sell as fast as possible for the most amount of money. So if you hold off for the weekend Super Bowl because you think it's going to make a bunch of money, and you do get $500-$600 a night, but then the rest of the month you're not making any money, was that worth it? Was it holding off for that high ticket reservation really worth it? And this is when hosts, especially new hosts, you got to remember that this is a business. And by using things like Alon's with Guesty, you are making your business, even if you have one unit, you're making it into a business, because then you have all these tools to go with it. That, as Mike said, we have no idea as Airbnb hosts if you had to like learn ADR or RevPAR. Like most people are like, I have no idea what that means. But if you use an app like Guesty, you get all the smart people in Tel Aviv putting everything together for you. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, I have a dynamic pricing software working for me. Like I'm a hospitality expert.
I want to go a little bit deeper on that. Selfishly, because I have been, again, kind of revamping some of the KPIs that we look at in my business. And I think it's helpful for folks that are looking to scale and they're wondering, like, how am I doing? Like overall, like, how am I doing? And there's certain things, and I'd love to get your 2 cents, especially with your background on, measuring what matters. And, obviously revenue, occupancy, revenue per available listing, like all those like financial ones. But then thank you guys, by the way, because you recently added a bunch of stuff to your analytics where I can see all of my reviews, because that was a huge thing that I was telling my rep was I want to measure my customer experience.
Yeah.
Because that's the lifeblood of everything. That drives the revenue.
By the way, just on the review parts, because that's something I personally was very involved in. You could not only see your reviews, you could actually reply to your reviews from Guesty. That's, I think, killer. It saves so much time. So you could just filter by low score reviews and a real time reply. So yeah, sorry. So do
you see a value in people responding to reviews? I think this has been a question that's been out there.
To me, yes. I haven't seen research on this. It's a very interesting topic to research, but to me, yes. I think replying to reviews, especially the bad ones, shows that there's a human behind this business. And in the end, hosts, they need to be human, right? So I think so. Yes, I think so. Especially
it's not bashing the guest. I always find, for me, my wife is a ninja with that. I let her handle all that stuff. But like when you can reply professionally and thank them for the feedback and apologize for the experience, and whether you want to offer them a discount for another stay, whatever, it just shows other people that you care, to Alan's point. And I feel like this is such a people business. People like alternative accommodations because they feel more connected and they want that different experience than just a cookie cutter hotel.
100%. And I mean, please do not really embrace what Mike said just now, right? When you respond to it, respond from your highest self, because there is also nothing worse than you going and responding and arguing with the guest. Yeah. Do not argue with the guest. In this, when you really embrace the whole, the customer is always right kind of philosophy. So if you are an arguer, don't respond, because I feel like if you argue in review response, it's going to be worse for you. So if you know that about you, just don't do it. But if you are a ninja, like Mike's wife or like myself, just sweet talk your way out of it and show people that you care. They're not just a number. They're not just a reservation,
Yeah.
Alan, in general, and this is more of a higher level question, I'm curious, what you're seeing. A lot of reports are out right now, and this is a little more on the market side of things, but basically a lot of the urban markets got crushed with the pandemic because people just didn't want to be in a highly concentrated metro. So a lot of the suburbs and the mountains and the beaches, at least here in the US, are doing well. Are you guys seeing that abroad as well?
Yeah. I think globally, a few months back, gateway cities, urban, big metro areas, they took a hit. There is what we've seen, interesting enough, is that short-term rentals or alternative accommodation really outperformed hotels on the rebound. I think we all know the reasons, so no use of getting into that. But I see this trend continuing. I just had a quick look at the data before our conversation. So we're seeing STR outperforming hotels, and we see this trend continuing. We're also seeing, as you mentioned, so strong pickup in domestic demand, especially for those driving and destinations. I think now what we're seeing is, at least in the States, that warmer areas are outperforming, and also an uptick in metro areas. So Atlanta, Vegas, Miami, we're seeing a positive trend over there. But overall, we're seeing good performance, improved performance in the warmer weather areas. And yeah.
Do you think, due to everything you just said, do you think we'll see a switch of larger hotel chains really aggressively entering the Airbnb business, or what do you think hotels are going to be doing? Like, because I don't see them just going away quietly, right? Like, I don't think they're just going to let it go.
Yeah. So do you mean by that, like repurposing existing properties as
that,
so
or bringing expertise?
I think even like the problem with a hotel is the way it's structured, right? That the way it's built to be dense, right? You have the dining rooms, you have the large lobbies, and I think that's what really discourages guests right now. So I don't see how hotels could walk around that. What I think will happen is that there'll be occupancy restrictions on hotels, which will even intensify the superiority of SDR over hotels, right? Because if you have occupancy restrictions on hotels, say, hotels can only operate at like this amount of occupancy, then the rest of the demand will spill over to SDRs. So that could potentially happen. It will be really interesting to see how hotels kind of adapt to this. They have a lot of adapting to do. So you just think of a normal workforce for hotels. That's something that will have to change. Hotels won't be able to run with so many employees anymore.
Yep, absolutely. So one of the things that we ask all of our guests, it'd be interesting from your perspective, just because you're seeing it from a higher level from so many different operators, is what is your number one secret for success as a short-term rental operator?
Okay, I think, and it might sound banal, but you need to treat this as a business. Even if it's not your day-to-day business, you need to treat this as a business. You need to measure KPIs. You need to have processes. You need to think through what you're doing. It's not enough to just list on Airbnb booking or Vrbo and think it will happen. It's not enough. You need to really look at it as a business. You need to have a plan, and really try to educate yourself as you go through. Learn from other people, learn from other people's mistakes, but really treat it as a business. And the way we try to facilitate this is we put a lot of efforts into analytics and reporting. So we try to create template reports so that even if you're not a very professional, seasoned short-term rental operators, you'll be able to just read them and understand and get immediate insight into your business without having to do all the hard work behind it. So we will already show you the KPIs that you need to track. We'll already show you like where you're doing well, where you can improve.
Which is
to me, it's invaluable, right? Like that's what a CEO of a company does, right? You get your reports and you look at the reports and then you know what to do. So this Guesty really allows you to become the CEO of your little or big short-term rental business, which is invaluable.
Yeah, exactly. But you need to think of yourself as the CEO.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
I think Mike just did a live yesterday. Was it
Monday?
Thinking like a CEO. Is that exactly what you said?
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah,
Wow.
I did a Mindset Monday. I'm like, how to think like a CEO. Because again, to your point, the majority of, not the volume of units, but the volume of operators are not running it like a business. It's just a side hustle thing. And it's fine if that's your thing. But the volume of units and the volume of income earned is by a minuscule percentage. I don't know if you guys have those stats, probably not handy, but I'd be very curious to see the annual revenue earned is probably earned by 5% of the actual host population, if not less.
A bit more than 5%, but there's a strong 80-20 rule here. Very strong. Rule.
And the differentiator is running it like a business, like 100%.
Yeah. But you don't even have to be big. It's not about how many units you have or how many employees you have. It's just waking up in the morning, like you read the Times or whatever, you just read your reports, educate yourself, know your business, know the ins and the outs. It still could be a side hustle. You'll just be making more money.
That's it. So if you hate money, don't do this.
Yeah.
If you like making money, just take some time.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been super beneficial, Alon. I really appreciate you giving us your time to come on here all the way halfway around the world, if not further than halfway around the world. And really appreciate it. So thank you again. And where can folks learn more about you and Guesty?
Guesty.com.
All right. Awesome. All right. Thank you again, Alon. And absolutely. We'll talk soon.
Bye-bye, guys.
Thanks, Alan. Bye-bye.
Hey, STR Nation, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. And in the comments, let us know what topics you want us to cover on upcoming episodes, and we'll make sure to get that in the books for you. And if you really want to learn how to launch, automate, and scale your short-term rental business, if you want to go deeper, then check out our free masterclass at strsecrets.com.